Hello, my name is Zachary LUBELL, and today we're going to be talking about color theory, light actor placement, light optimization for Unreal Development Kit May 2011 edition. Color theory is an attempt to define what is meant by color, how colors are related, and most importantly, how we use color. The basic of color theory is the color wheel. The wheel is a visual representation of how different colors mix in order to form other colors, and more importantly, with the relationship between the colors. The color combinations are vast, however. The basic principle of color theory still apply. The first thing any designer should ask him or herself is, what kind of emotions do I want to provoke out of the player? The color palette chosen will depend on the mood of the environment and the emotion of the player fostered by the mood. Working with less is essentially better than working with more colors, and that's important to remember. So working with 2 or 3 colors creates the foundation for the color design of any world or level. Keeping these factors in mind, the designer can create levels that trigger emotions based entirely on color and lighting. For example, warm colors consist of red, orange, and yellow. Cool colors consist of blue-green, blue-violet, green, yellow-green, and violet. Complementary colors are any color that is the opposite from one another. So a complementary color, a primary color, for example, its complementary color is going to be the opposite on the color wheel. That's going to be another primary color. So for example, red is green, red to green, blue to orange, and yellow to purple. So if your overall goal as a designer is to create an environment with exciting emotional elements that can cause people to take action, then you're probably going to want to use a warm color palette. If your overall goal as a designer is to create a very calm environment with a sense of peace, you're going to want to use a cool color palette. And of course, if your overall goal as a designer is to create intense colors with shadows, you're going to want to go with a complementary color palette, because you're going to want to make sure your objects have a warm color and the shadows coming off of those objects have a cool color. Now let's get into the engine and the placement of these lights for this simple level we have here. For this color palette, I decided to use blue, pink, and yellow. And with that, I'm going to have other colors based on those primary choices to make a nice complex color palette. The other colors are going to be cool green for my walls, cool gray and blue for my roof and sky. And as you begin to place lights, you're going to want to start by starting with the sky. And you're going to want to move through from the sky towards where the player spawns. And you're going to want to make sure you cover, obviously, the ceilings and the roofs, and make sure the blend is correct, just like this color wheel blends correctly. You're going to want the lights to flow and blend correctly, and that's all about sticking to this color palette. So my 3 light sources for my sky are going to be these 2 point lights over here. And the first one I'm going to use right here is this point light at 3 brightness with this nice cool blue with an alpha at 0.39. So it's going to blend nicely with this other point light right next to it, and all the other fall off is going to be created with the light. With a shadow of yellow, that's also going to blend nicely with this point light here with its shadow. This point light for the sky, the second light, is at a brightness of 2.5 with a light color of a nice cool yellow with an alpha of 0.32 to blend nicely with that blue. Furthermore, the shadow is a nice cool blue. Moving along, the third light is this dominant directional. And as you can see, the placement of these 3 lights are important. I don't want to have very harsh shadows being created by these big light sources. So I place them in an area that's going to blend really nicely with each other and create this overall nice gradient across the entire level. Going back to this dominant directional, I have it set at a brightness of 4 with my pink covering my color palette as my third source. Furthermore, its shadows are blue with an alpha of 0.25. This is using light shafts, so we're going to make sure it has a yellow with a nice 0.5. As we move through the level, we're going to make sure our walls are going to be this nice green. Now, I'm going to just select them all so you can see all the lights are going to be for the walls of this level, for this particular room. As you can see, I have it set at a brightness of 2 with a nice cool green. And at this point, I'm not going to worry about shadows because I'm not really dealing with complementary colors. I'm dealing with this very specific cool color palette. And of course, I have 2 more point lights here because they're almost close to the ceiling, but they're not quite. So they're going to get a level 1 brightness with this nice cooler aqua green right here to blend correctly. And of course, towards the ceiling, we're going to see this nice, I'm going to zoom out, this nice big blue with this took a lot of precise measurements, and I have a brightness of a 1.64987 to provide a really nice blend across this entire level. Of course, as you can see, there's nothing with the shadows here. Furthermore, moving across the level, our grays are going to be right here. And these point lights are both the same with a brightness of 6 with our nice grays with an alpha channel of 0.32. Furthermore, this gray right next to it is a different type of gray of a yellow sticking to that color palette of a 0.36 alpha. As we move through the level and get closer, here is the player spawn. So right near that is going to be this nice spotlights we're going to use actually in this area, these 8 spotlights. And with this color palette, we're going to set it to a brightness of 2 with a nice cool green of an alpha of 0.5. And in the middle of the room, we're going to put another one of these nice gray big spotlights of a brightness of 6 with an alpha of 0.32 to really blend nicely across the entire level. And of course, behind the player in the final room, we have some more bright, even brighter than those, of this nice gray with a 0.32 alpha. And as you can see, this nice transition going across the level from all the way over here to all the way over here blends correctly based on a color palette of blue, pink, yellow. And now let's get into, before we get right into the engine, one last thing we need to cover is light volume. And it's important to cover light volume because this is all about optimization. And the best way to think about light volume it's a giant 3D box that gets created around the entire level. And any light actor that gets put inside the light volume box is being optimized. And that's very important for your level because you want full optimization. And it's not only good for your level, it's going to make everything look more pretty because it's actually going to be using the full effect of light mass and all of the colors that you chose through all of the lights that you place inside of these boxes. And that's the best way to understand light mass. To make a light volume, you take your builder brush and you basically make it the size that you want. So for example, that's my builder brush, and I made a light volume right here, this size. And the one thing you got to remember when you make a light volume is to always have process all actors clicked on. To add a light volume, you take your builder brush, you make it the size you want, you right click it, you go to add a volume, and then you hit light volume. So when you do that, it's going to create one of these boxes, the shape of that builder brush, and just click that. And that's also very important to cover for your light, for anything that you're using light mass to. You're going to want to use your light mass volume, and because that's going to trap all this stuff, all this nice stuff from the dominant directional. So now let's get into the level to really look at everything we just created. Thank you. At this opportunity, I would like to pass it off to Matt Duncan. As you can see in our level, our color palette has successfully blended to create a desired effect and environment that we first set off to create.